Hello, everybody. Ralph here with The Pluralist, Chapter 3, A Bad Business Model. Hope everybody's doing fine. Before I get to that, just want to say hey and thank you for the about 1,000 views of Part 2 of The Pluralist. That was Is It the Truth? Following Part 1, Pluralism 101. Both of those parts still available on Facebook and now also on YouTube and on Twitter if you want to catch up with parts 1 and 2 before you move on to part 3. When I put it on Twitter, my brother Ray found it, and he made a comment to me via email and sent me a link that was very interesting that I will be using in a program in the not too distant future. So let's get to it. The Pluralist, Chapter 3, A Bad Business Model. And it starts with a quote from a former general manager. Who the hell do you think you are criticizing the business model of one of our clients? What business have you ever run? Those were the first of many choice words my general manager, Allison, had for me as she burst into a meeting among my program director, my sales manager, and me. It was one of 4 incidents that eventually got me fired from WTN. And for the record, I had not challenged the clients or potential clients' business model, but I did turn down his business. It was a $40,000 annual loss to the company, including $10,000, which would have been mine. I did it because in my pre-interview with him, he told me that he always left his gun in his car, including at home, and he had 2 small children at home. So I turned down the opportunity to endorse his business of selling gun holsters for cars. Now, 5.5 years after Allison fired me, I am challenging another business model. Her business model, my former business, the talk radio business. I'm not blaming her for the business model. She didn't create it, nor did I, nor anyone in it today. I had high hopes for talk radio while I was in college. I did my college thesis on that subject. And after spending 20 years in local radio and television news, I finally got my first talk show in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I met my wife, Mariana, in 1996. 11 years later, WTN in Nashville recruited me to be its morning drive host in April of 2007. By the time I got my first show in 1996, talk radio had changed dramatically from when I first knew it and loved it. When I was young, I saw the medium as a potential to be America's local and national town hall, where intelligent, curious hosts, respected guests, and active citizens could interact with civility about the issues of the day all day long. What talk radio became before I got into the business, and maybe I shouldn't have gotten into it because of this, was an echo chamber of hosts, guests, P1s, and many sponsors on one side of a social, cultural, economic, and political war that is fueled, in part, by talk radio and talk radio's business model copycats on radio and television and online. So, to my former boss, I am saying, I think the business model of your business, my former business, is not nearly as good for America as I hoped it would be when I made my plans long ago to have a career in talk radio. And it may not be good for America at all. The industry I once believed could be the town hall for our nation has become more of a protest rally for our nation on one side of a whole bunch of different issues. And it's done so because it has been a very, very profitable business model. It may not have started with talk radio, probably didn't, but the gold-plated talk radio business model inspired Fox News and MSNBC and many more new media. CNN, which began before the other two as the first to offer 24-hour television news, drifted to the left after Fox News entered the scene to try to attract those who disliked Fox News, which became the ratings leader almost immediately, and still is, but not quite as far right now. A recent president of CNN, who promised to remove the partisanship, or at least promised to try, to remove the partisanship from the network, was forced out of office after about a year and a half by floundering ratings and an unpopular decision to hold a CNN town hall with Donald Trump. MSNBC exists almost entirely as an opponent to Fox News. Both CNN and MSNBC still trail in ratings to Fox, which is currently trying to walk a tightrope between Trump loyalists and those in the GOP who want to dump Trump for a less controversial presidential candidate. My sense is they're trying to, as subtly as possible, get past Trump, since their owner, Rupert Murdoch, got past Trump, is through with Trump, and has been for more than 2 years. Throughout the time that Fox News and talk radio migrated naturally from the Reagan right to the Trump right, it has continued to win the new media battle from the beginning. And history will largely credit one man. You know who that is. Rush Limbaugh, for proving the profitability of the talk radio business model, the modern talk radio business model, which is to gain loyalty to the station and its advertisers by inspiring the right half of the political spectrum. It's as simple as that, and it works brilliantly. But is that good for the preservation of a constitutional democratic republic? Is it good for America that the right half of the population gets its news and is loyal to news sources that just cater to them, and the left half is loyal to news sources that cater to the left? I don't think so. I hope talk radio will one day transform itself into the town hall that I witnessed when I was finishing my senior year at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and doing an internship at KMOX AM in St. Louis, one of the first talk stations in the country, rumored at the time as a talk station to be the leading profit center among all of the CBS-owned radio properties, earning more than stations in much bigger markets like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago because of its new talk format. That was in the mid-'70s. More than a decade later, the success of the Rush Limbaugh show in the late 80s and early 90s changed the business model of talk radio and helped inspire Fox News and countless other new media where listeners, viewers, and readers could reliably find news and opinion in line with their political and cultural ideology. I trained for the original talk radio business model in the trenches of radio and television news, covering school board and city council meetings late into the night, reporting on them early in the morning on both radio and TV as a reporter, anchor, and news director. I hope to eventually become a talk show host just like Bob Hardy. He was the KMOX host who ran his 3-hour program like a town hall, always with a guest. The guest was usually in the studio, and a phone bank that was always full of listeners and callers. By the time I advanced from news to talk show host in 1996, Rush Limbaugh was syndicated on nearly 600 stations across the country. And and all of the stations were hiring hosts, local hosts, who could either naturally or could pretend to be in harmony with Rush. I was one of those hosts for 20 years. It came fairly natural to me. I tell myself that I was as thorough as possible in researching my positions, but I still wish my job would have been more journalism and less commentary. I wish talk radio were more journalism and less commentary, a lot of which is nothing more than the host's instant reaction to news that he or she reads or sees on other news sources. Coincidentally, the host's reaction to the news is almost always in perfect harmony with the P1s in that audience. P1s are the people who put your station on the first position of the radio dial in their cars. And they can be brutal if you wander off the reservation. And because of that, talk radio managers treat talk formats just like music formats. You stick to either country or classic rock or adult contemporary or urban contemporary or something else, but you don't wander around. You don't mix and match the genres, because if you do, you'll please no one. and you'll get no ratings. You can't get ratings by playing a country song followed by an urban contemporary song. So you compete for country fans only and forget about the fans of other music genres. You have other stations in your 6-station group in Nashville for that purpose. Talk radio programmers create a political brand, right or left, as simple as that, which attracts a very loyal set of P1s, but those P1s have rigid expectations. When you contradict their expectations, your ratings will see a precipitous drop, as Fox News ratings did when the network announced Arizona for Biden over Trump on election night of 2020, and as my own ratings did when I took a position in favor of a Tennessee gas tax hike, offset by a cut in other taxes, mostly the grocery tax, and more than offset the gas tax hike. I explained my position on that issue more times than I've explained my position on any other issue in my 20 years as a talk show host. And my explanation always fell on deaf ears. My audience share dropped about 25%, from 5th place down to about 10th place. To the credit of my sponsors, it cost me none of my endorsement business except for one client who joined the chorus against me personally, not just my position, so I dropped him as a client. Another action which Allison didn't please Allison, even though I did help facilitate the client's move to another host, and it cost the station absolutely nothing. It just cost me $10,000 a year. You can't please some people. On the positive side, there is some evidence today that a more pluralist approach to talk radio can be profitable and popular. The best contemporary example that I can think of is someone named Michael Smerconish. He took over the morning drive slot for Don Imus when Imus was fired. Smerconish was a lawyer, active in Republican politics in his early life and career. He started his talk radio career in Philadelphia, first as a guest and then as a host. He became a registered independent who refused to vote for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in 2016. He broadcasts now on the POTUS channel, on Sirius XM, and on CNN. He's got a radio show and a TV show. Comes closer to a pluralist approach than any other radio or TV talk show that I know of, and I'm happy to recommend his show for that reason. Congress will keep fighting an us versus them war as long as that's what we the people want. They will. The media has significant influence on what we think and what we want. If it didn't, talk radio advertising wouldn't work, and it works. Ask any of my former clients. It would be risky for talk radio and others to give up a proven business model, but I've seen a very different business model work as well or better in the past. And I see some evidence today that it still will work now. I pray that more radio general managers and hosts will take that risk. I know it's a risk, while the current model is a very productive, very profitable bird in the hand. But risk takers change the world. And this world needs more risk takers in the media. That's all for now. I'm happy to respond to any questions or comments you have about this part 3, a bad business model, online or during our encore presentation of this same part 3. That'll be Monday, live at 6 p.m., so feel free to comment. I may be able to answer you then. Brother Ray emailed me after seeing my first 2 programs on Twitter. He said, enjoyed your first 2 sessions on pluralism. Look forward to upcoming ones, so keep posting on X, Twitter. Below is a link that seems in agreement with where it looks like you're going, and he included a link of a very interesting essay written in 1941. And either next week or the week after, I'm going to review that essay written by a historian about the dilemma of modern democracy. I hope it's not a spoiler alert to tell you that most of it could have been written today. Ray wrote, I've read this article about a half dozen times over the past 2 years or so, and each time today looked more like 1941. Well, Ray, that's because the dilemma of modern democracy never changes. even as the population changes fairly dramatically sometimes. I hope you don't miss it. For now, I'm Ralph Bristol, the Pluralist.